Before Job lost everything, he was already being watched from heaven, because his story doesn't begin on earth, but in the invisible realm where the fate of men is decided. Job was perfect and upright, God-fearing, and turned away from evil, and it wasn't just people who said so. God himself said it before all of heaven when Satan appeared among the sons of God, and the Lord asked him if he had considered his servant Job, because there was no one like him on earth. Then Satan responded with a silent accusation. Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not put a hedge around him, his house and all that he has? And God allowed the test not because he doubted Job, but because he knew his faith would withstand what others could not endure. And so began one of the most painful stories ever written. In a single day, Job lost everything. Messenger after messenger arrived with soul-crushing news. His oxen were stolen, his servants killed, fire fell from the sky and consumed his sheep. The Chaldeans seized his camels, and finally the blow no father should ever endure. A great wind toppled the house where his children were, and they all died. Job fell to the ground, tore his cloak, shaved his head, and worshipped, saying, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be blessed." But the pain was not over, because Satan appeared again before God and asked to touch his body, and Job was afflicted with a malignant scab from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. He sat in ashes, scratching himself with a piece of broken pottery, while his wife said to him, "Curse God and die." But Job replied, "You speak like a foolish woman. Shall we receive good from God and not receive evil?" Then his friends came to comfort him, and when they saw him, they didn't recognize him. He was so broken. They sat with him in silence for 7 days because his grief was great, but when they spoke, they began to wound him more than his suffering. They told him his pain was punishment, that he must have done something hidden, since God does not afflict the righteous. And Job cried out from the depths of his soul, wishing he had never been born. He asked why a man without hope lives, and though he didn't understand, he kept speaking to God, not behind his back, but face to face. Job defended his integrity, wept, complained, and cried out, yet he never let go of God because his faith was not blind. It was a wounded but living faith. He said, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." And he cried out for a Redeemer to rise from the dust, not knowing that those words would echo through the centuries. When everyone had finished speaking, God answered, but he didn't explain the suffering, give reasons, or speak of the enemy. He spoke of his greatness, asking Job, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Have you commanded the morning? Have you entered the storehouses of the snow? Can you bind the Pleiades or loose Orion?" And Job understood something he had never seen before, that God didn't need to justify himself, because his wisdom surpasses human suffering. Then Job answered, "I had only heard about you by word of mouth, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes." And God restored his life, rebuked his friends, and said that Job had spoken rightly. He returned to him twice as much as he had lost, children, land, livestock, blessing, and a long life. But the true ending wasn't the material restoration, but the revelation. Because Job understood that his suffering wasn't punishment or abandonment, it was a test that revealed a faith that didn't depend on blessings, and Job's story was written to remind the world that sometimes God allows pain not to destroy us, but to show us who he is when everything else disappears. And so Job leaves us with a truth that few accept. There are trials that cannot be explained but must be endured, and even in silence, God still reigns.